بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. We continue our discussion about ظنون, those things that give you a dhan, suspicion in the technical sense, means more than 50%. We said, as such, dhan is not hujjah, is not a valid proof. But there are some types of dhan that can be used as a proof, as a kind of reference. We talked about zawahir, the apparent meanings of the text. Now, the second is ash-shuhratul fatwa'iyyah. One of the things that some ulama have accepted is when there is a fatwa and this fatwa is well spread among our scholars, especially early scholars, and you don't have a hadith that can be today taken as an evidence or proof for that fatwa, we can say that that fatwa must have been based on a hadith that we have not received. Otherwise, there is no way why so many ulama had that fatwa. They couldn't have, made this fatwa just by chance. And it's not based on a hadith that we have today so that we may disagree with them about that hadith. For example, say everyone should follow his own ijtihad. You understand? Because even if there is ijma, but that ijma is madraki. You remember we had this discussion in previous book. We said al-ijma'ul madraki laysa bihujjah. When there is consensus, but you know that all these ulama who have agreed on this fatwa is based on this hadith. And this hadith is available today. Okay, you have to check it yourself. If in your ijtihad, suppose you are a mujtahid, if in your own ijtihad the sanad or dalala is not tam, then even agreement of ulama is not sufficient. Okay? But if we don't have any hadith and they all have agreed, or most of them have agreed, it's very famous, well spread fatwa, then it must be based on a hadith that even if we would have agreed. Of course, this is an area that is not 100% everyone agrees, but this is one of the things that many ulama have mentioned as a valid dhan. Please look at the book. Al-Faslu Thani Ash-Shuhratul Fatwa'iyyah. And this Ash-Shuhratul Fatwa'iyyah is different from Ash-Shuhratul Riwa'iyyah, when a hadith is well, spread. من الظنون التي خرجت عن أصل حرمة العمل بالظن الشهرة الفتوائية. One of the dhunun that has been excluded from the main principle. What was the main principle? You remember we said before doing anything we should establish a principle that if we don't have any other evidence we go back to this principle. That principle was dhan is not hujjah. إن الظن لا يغني عن الحق شيئا. One of the areas that has been claimed that is excluded from that principle is ash-shuhratul fatwa'iyyah. But بين القدماء من الفقهاء, as I explained, among early scholars. If it continues till today, okay. But if it is only today or recent time, not among early scholars, that's not enough. Okay? So it must be something among early scholars who were closer to the time of Ma'sumin, who had lots of, more maybe resources. Some of those resources that they had, we have not received. So, if among early scholars there is a very well established and very famous fatwa, then you can use that to say there must be a hadith that they had and we don't have. So that fatwa becomes an evidence. So, من الظنون التي خرجت عن أصل حرمة العمل بالظن الشهرة الفتوائية بين القدماء من الفقهاء is الشهرة with respect to fatwa, okay? So fame of the fatwa among early scholar, early jurists. To explain this more, وهي, here means الشهرة الفتوائية, yeah? So we want to explain what is شهرة الفتوائية. عبارة عن اشتهار الفتوى في مسألة لم ترد فيها رواية معتبرة. Fatwa is famous in a mas'ala. Mas'ala means problem. Problem not in the sense of difficulty. Problem in the sense of issue. Yeah. In an issue in which no valid hadith has been received. Okay? We don't have ourselves a valid hadith. مثلا اتفق القدماء من الفقهاء على حكم في مورد ولم نجد فيه نصا من أئمة أهل البيت عليهم السلام. Among earlier scholars, there is a ruling that all of them agreed, but we have not received any hadith from Ahlul Bayt about that ruling. يقع الكلام في حجية تلك الشهرة الفتوى. Then some have said, of course we don't say everyone should agree, but some have said that fatwa, which is famous among earlier scholars, is a good proof, good evidence. Al-Zahiru. Ayatollah Subhani says, Al-Zahir means for him this is what he prefers. According also to his teacher. Ayatollah Subhani was a student of Imam Khomeini, so he has taqrirat of Usul of Imam Khomeini, but also he was a student of Ayatollah Burujerdi. Even Imam Khomeini, although he was mujtahid, used to take part in the lessons of Ayatollah Burujerdi when he was, marja in Qom. But it's like, different generations attending Ayatollah Burujerdi. So, Ayatollah Subhani says, وفاقاً لبعض الأعلام, in agreement with some of the a'lam, in some of the most outstanding scholars. And in the footnote says, he means Ayatollah al-Uzma Burujerdi rahmatullah alayh. In Masjid al-Azam, you must have seen his grave. Ayatollah rahmatullah. He was the one that his marja'iyya was very well established, and alhamdulillah, he managed to do lots of good things during his marja'iyya. So, الظاهر حجية مثل هذه الشهرة. This type of shuhra is hujjah. Why? Not because of their fatwa. Their fatwa as such is not hujjah for us. Even ijma of ulama as such is not hujjah for us. Yeah, we said ijma is hujjah when we can discover the view of ma'soom. So, It's not a matter of fatwa. It's a matter of they must have had something that we have not received. لأنها تكشف عن وجود نص معتبر وصل إليهم ولم يصل إلينا. Because this تكشف means this unveils, this indicates. Yeah, kashf means to unveil. This unveils, or this helps us to discover that there was a valid text which had reached them and has not reached us. حتى دعاهم إلى الإفتاء على مضمونه. That text had called them to give this fatwa. دعاهم means invited them, called them to give this fatwa based on that mazmun means the content of that hadith. Why we say there must be a hadith? Why, for example, it cannot be without hadith? Because how? So many ulama. If it's one person, you can say he might have made a mistake, for example. Two people. But how so many early ulama who were very close to that Ma'asum have all given the same fatwa without having any guidance? Is min al-ba'id an yuftiya aqtab al-fiqh, because it's very unlikely that aqtab, qutb means pole, yeah, qutb, but here means like pillars. The great scholars of fiqh, how we can think that they have given fatwa bishay'in, fatwa, they have given certain fatwa bila mustanadin shar'i wa dalilin mu'taddin bih, without having a religious reason for that or something which is considerable. Our early ulama, even for example, in the beginning of the time of beginning of Ghaibah, so in the time of Ma'asumin, but even in the time of beginning of Ghaibah, sometimes they used to have the exact text of hadith for their fatwa. Today we have Risale, so the text is written by ulama. But in those times, they used to use the text of hadith. So maybe there were, for example, different hadiths, but anyway, the one that they accepted, they used exactly that text for their fatwa. So those early scholars who are pillars of fiqh, how can they give a fatwa, not one person, it's very well established fatwa, bila mustanadin shar'i, without a religious backup or evidence? Mustanad, mustanad means something that you use as argument, as a proof. No. Mustanad means your evidence, not sanad. No. Mustanad means something that you use as evidence, something that you can rely on. What dalil, like dalil, proof, argument. Mu'taddan bih, which is something that you can accept, you can consider as a dalil. وَقَدْ حَكَى سَيِّدُ مَشَايِخِنَا, teacher of our teachers, master of our teachers. Because as I said, Ayatollah Burujerdi was also teacher of the teacher of Ayatollah Subhani. So he says teacher of our teacher. Al-Muhaqqiq al-Burujerdi. This is the way you show respect to your teachers, to your ulama. And even if you are a great scholar, you should show respect to previous ulama. Unfortunately, sometimes people act like unwise teenagers. Of course, not every teenager is like this, but some unwise, unexperienced teenager, because it's a time for them to realize themselves, and become independent. So it starts with rebellion. They start with rebellion against their parents, and then maybe teacher, maybe society. This is not uncommon among teenagers, but a scholar should not be like a teenager who is just trying to become independent. If you are a good scholar and you have your own opinion and you want to be independent, the way is not, to be disrespectful to your teachers or other scholars and, say, I disagree, I don't accept. You have to understand that whatever you have, you owe previous ulama and teachers. And you may have your own ideas. This is a very important point. You may have your own ideas, but one sign of your ideas being reliable is when these ideas are based on a scholarship. And a scholarship is not something that one person can own. Okay, it's a tradition. So it's important that you have your own original or independent ideas, but it's also important how much you have agreed with the scholarship. Imagine if you have a doctor, he has 1, 2, 3 new ideas that changes medicine. You can say, okay, it's good. He's a great doctor or great scientist in the field of medicine. He has few new ideas. But if you have a doctor or medicine scientist that disagrees with others in everything, you say, he is not even, someone that you want to consider. Or if he disagrees but makes mockery of other scholars, they were not understanding, I understand. This is the problem. A scientist never makes mockery of another scientist, even if they disagree. Yeah? If you make mockery, means that you are not a scientist, you are not a scholar. In last trip to Canada, I gave a speech, community building in practice. Inshallah, if you have not watched, please watch that, because there are important issues about community. And one of the things I mentioned was that today we have workshops, courses on leadership. And I'm not against it, and it can be useful. But I said, actually, I don't think any leader comes from courses on leadership. A good leader can be expected among the people who are the most loyal followers. When you have a good leader, then those among his followers and companions who dedicate themselves to follow him and take his advice selflessly, without any time occurring to their mind that one day I am to become leader, then these people may become able to succeed him. Not people that we have leaders and they are also training themselves to be next leaders. I don't think this is an Islamic model. I'm not against these courses, because there are good things you can learn, but I say we need more courses on discipleship. How can we be good followers? How can we be good disciples, good companions? So that inshallah when Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif comes, we can be good followers. You can be, and you must be, very rational. You must be a person who is not following without understanding. Very rational, very understanding. very critical, but at the same time obedient. This needs lots of practice. It's not easy. So, the respect that someone shows to other scholars, to his own teachers, previous ulama, in my view, is a sign of maturity of this person. And if he doesn't show respect, then I start doubting the understanding of this person. My main interest should be to find a way, this is a very important point, to find a way to understand what they had in mind that led to this fatwa. Okay? So, or for example, if I'm studying Al-Mizan, for example, tafsir, it's not only fiqh, in any field. Why Allama Tabatabai understood this ayah in this way? Why Mullah Sadra had this philosophical idea? The first intention, the first motivation for me is to understand the rationale behind this. Not that the first thing is that, let me say something different. Let me find where they made mistake. If you have this approach, then you will not understand, you know. So, he says, with great respect, قد حكى سيد مشايخنا المحقق البروجردي في درسه الشريف. Outside Hose, normally you don't find these things. Maybe there are in some traditions, you know, religious traditions, but unfortunately in academic world, you don't find saying في درسه الشريف. Yeah, in his noble teaching or noble lessons. But this is very important for us. أن في الفقه الإمامي مسائل كثيرة. He used to say in his noble lessons that in Shia jurisprudence there are many issues. تلقاها الأصحاب قديما وحديثا بالقبول. Are ulama, whether early ulama or recent ulama, yeah, they accepted them. تلقى بالقبول means they accepted them. وليس لها دليل إلا الشهرة الفتوائية. And there is no reason for that except الشهرة الفتوائية. Fame in fatwa. It was famous. Therefore, Ayatollah Burujerdi says, if we were to remove this shuhra al-fatwa'iyya from the list of the acceptable reasons, many issues in fiqh then would become kind of unknown why they have made this fatwa. لأصبحت تلك المسائل فتاوى فارغة مجردة عن الدليل. Many of those masail then they become for us just only fatwa without reason. It's not that they issued fatwa without reason. No, they had reason. But that reason has not reached us. So, for someone like Ayatollah Burujerdi, who was very, very, very experienced in fiqh and hadith, not only Shia fiqh, Sunni fiqh, when he says something like this, it's very important. Of course, every Muslim has to make his own opinion about this issue, but based on his experience, he was confident. You know, if someone is not confident, may say, no, how can you say this? So if a mujtahid is not convinced, okay. But he was convinced that it's impossible. So many early scholars and pillars of fiqh say something without having a valid proof for that. If it was one person, we say it's very likely that he had dalil, but it's still not convincing. But when many had this fatwa, he was convinced. Yes, you had a question?
Yes, so is it correct to say that the ulama mutaqaddimin, had more access to Islamic raw text, dalail, that today are lost? And does that mean that the ulama are more trusted than the mutaakhirin?
Yes, for sure. We don't have anything more.
Yes.
So either we have everything that they had or less. And the great chance is that we have less. For example, as you know, there were 400 usul 400 400 principles, means 400 collections of hadith. Many of them are missing today. But alhamdulillah, we have received them through kutub arba'ah. But we don't know, maybe all 400 are not narrated to us through kutub arba'ah. Okay? The second thing, so is finished, alhamdulillah. Shuhratul fatwa. The third type of valid run is حجية السنة المحكية بالخبر الواحد. When a sunnah means opinion of ma'soom, whether it is his saying or his action or his tacit approval, taqrir, whether it's prophet or for us Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, when we receive the sunnah through khabar mutawatir, of course then we have yaqeen, because khabar mutawatir means in every generation so many people have narrated this that leaves no chance of mistake or fabrication or things like that. You are 100% sure. But if it is not khabar wahid, not mutawatir, it can be mustafid, like many, but lower than mutawatir. Or it's not many, it's khabar wahid, like one narrator, two narrators in every generation. Or for example, many, but then in one generation becomes one. So all of them have received from one. Because overall value is based on the weakest. If you have 10 generations, and one of them is weak, it makes the whole hadith weak. One is wahid, the rest is many, becomes wahid. Okay? Because an-natijatu tabi'atun li-akhass al-muqaddamat. Like we have in logic, in the chain is also the same. So, the question is this. When you have a hadith that it's not mutawatir, for example, many or one or two people have narrated in each generation, and they are reliable. Okay? For example, they are adil, they are just. But do you become certain when a just person says something, or a just person says, I heard from another just and he from another just, so you know all of them are just. Do you become certain? No. Maybe they misunderstood, maybe they misquoted, maybe they misregistered, or maybe, na'udhu billah, shaitan deceived one of them, although he was adil, but any adil can make a mistake, not ma'soom, Adil doesn't commit a sin, but may commit a sin. So, you are not certain, you are not 100% sure. Okay? But many ulama have said khabar wahid is hujjah. Although it's bringing dhan, but this dhan is valid. They bring verses from the Quran, they bring hadith, even they bring bina'ul uqala. So inshallah we want to discuss all these things. حجية السنة المحكية بالخبر الواحد. Validity of the sunnah which has been transmitted with خبر واحد. السنة في مصطلح فقهاء أهل السنة هي قول النبي أو فعله أو تقريره. Yeah? For our Sunni brothers, the sunnah is the saying of the Prophet or action of the Prophet or taqrir. Something was done in the presence of the Prophet and Prophet didn't criticize, didn't reject. For us, it's not only the Prophet. For us, ma'sumin are the Prophet and Imams. لكن المعصوم من أئمة أهل البيت عليهم السلام يجري قوله وفعله وتقريره عندنا مجرى قول النبي وفعله وتقريره. For us, معصومين عليهم السلام are also accepted as sunnah. Means they're saying as sunnah, their action, their taqrir. لأجل ذلك تطلق السنة عند الإمامية على قول المعصوم وفعله means فعل معصوم وتقريره تقرير المعصوم دون أن تختص بالنبي. Not because they are equal. They are not equal to the Prophet. It's not a matter of being equal. It's a matter of this is the position of Hujjiyah. They have Hujjiyah as common. Although Rasulullah is the one who received revelation and other ma'asumin did not receive revelation. ليس أئمة أهل البيت عليهم السلام من رواة الحديث والرجال. Our Sunni brothers may have hadith from Rasulullah through Ahlul Bayt. Okay, you find many hadiths, not as many as should be, but still you find many hadiths in non-Shia sources from Rasulullah through Ahlul Bayt. But when they narrate a hadith through Ahlul Bayt for them is like a narrator. Okay? For example, it can be from a companion, it can be from Ahlul Bayt. But for us, Ahlul Bayt are not narrators of hadith. Although whatever they have received from the Prophet, but they are hujjah, and Allah has equipped them with knowledge for our guidance. ليس أئمة أهل البيت عليهم السلام من رواة الحديث والرجاله means والرجال الحديث. Rajal al-Hadith, in Ilm al-Rajal, we say the biography of the narrators of Hadith is studied in Ilm al-Rajal. وَإِن نَسَبُ الْحَدِيث أَحْيَانًا إِلَى جَدِّهِمْ. Even if they sometimes quote from the Prophet. Imams alayhimus salam, sometimes they say Hadith directly. Sometimes they quote a previous ma'asum. For example, Imam Kazim alayhi salam may say, my father said this, or may say, Rasulullah said this, or may say himself something. Actually, we have hadith that says, whatever we say is from the Prophet. Okay? But in practice, sometimes they didn't mention all the chains. They said themselves. But what is important is that even if they say something without mentioning the chain to the Prophet, for us, their opinion, their saying is hujjah. وَإِن نَسَبُ الْحَدِيثَ أَحْيَانًا إِلَى جَدٍّ. Even if they mention that this hadith is from the Prophet, we don't consider them as a narrator. بَلْ هُمُ الْمَنْسُوبُونَ مِنَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى عَلَى لِسَانِ النَّبِيِّ. They are appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who appointed them? Allah, not Rasulullah. Rasulullah declared, ala lisan al-Nabi. So, appointment is by God, declaration, announcement is by Prophet. لتبلیغ الأحكام الواقعية. They are appointed by Allah to convey to people, to communicate to people, to deliver to the people the real rulings. You know, their idea is not ijtihad, is not fatwa. Okay? فَقَدْ رُزِقُوا مِنْ جَانِبِهِ سُبْحَانَهُ عِلْمًا لِصَالِحِ الْأُمَّةِ. They have been given from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah has given them knowledge for the benefit of ummah. لِصَالِحِ الْأُمَّةِ means for the interest, for the benefit of ummah. كَمَا رُزِقَ. Don't say this is only for prophets. We have this for the prophets, we can have this for non-prophets. الذي آتيناه من آياتنا فانسلخ منها فأتبعه الشيطان. So different people can have this knowledge. One case is كما رزق مصاحب النبي موسى عليه السلام علما كذلك من دون أن يكون نبيا. For example, the companion of the Prophet Musa. And according to Ayatollah Subhani, he says the companion was not a prophet. Okay? The one that they met. So, فَوَجَدَ عَبْدًا مِنْ عِبَادِنَا آتَيْنَاهُ رَحْمَةً مِنْ عِنْدِنَا. Musa alayhi salam and Khidr found someone. Wajada abdan. So wajada means Musa and Khidr. But they found another person. That person was not a prophet. But we had given him mercy from us. وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّا عِلْمًا. And we had taught him some knowledge. This ilman shows that this was special, it was important, it was considerable ilm. فَعِنْدَهُمْ علم الشريعة أئمة المعصومين أهل البيت. They have علم الشريعة وإن لم يكونوا أنبياء ولا رسلا, although they are not prophets or messengers. Okay, this is very simple. This is not difficult for us. This is عقائد. ثم إن الخبر الحاكي للسنة. The hadith that conveys sunnah إما الخبر المتواتر أو الخبر الواحد. It's either mutawatir or wahid. And when he says wahid, he means anything which is not mutawatir. It can be mustafid. Yeah? إن الخبر الواحد إما منقول بطرق متعددة. It has been narrated in different chains, different channels, different paths. But من دون أن يبلغ حد التواتر. So there are many parallel chains, okay, but does not reach the level of tawatur. فهو مستفيض. وإلا, if it's not many, it's غير مستفيض. All of them, he calls them خبر واحد. ولا شك في أن الخبر المتواتر يفيد العلم. There is no doubt that خبر متواتر brings certainty, knowledge. ولا كلام في حجيته. There is no need to talk about حجية. There is no question. Yeah? Because it brings yaqeen, and we said yaqeen is حجة. إنما الكلام في حجية الخبر الواحد. The only thing that needs discussion is خبر واحد, whether it's مستفيد or غير مستفيد. Is it حجة or not? Ulama have two opinions. ذهب الشيخ المفيد رحمه الله. السيد المرتضى. Sayyid al-Murtaza was a student of Shaykh Mufid. Al-Qadi ibn al-Barraj wa-Tabarsi wa-Ibn Idris, they had this opinion that we cannot act upon خبر واحد. عدم جواز العمل بالخبر الواحد في الشريعة. In fiqh, we cannot act according to خبر واحد. But Al-Shaykh al-Tusi. Shaykh al-Tusi was a student of Shaykh Mufid and Sayyid Murtada. He had the idea that Khabar Wahid is Hujjah. وَأَيْضًا قَاطِبَةُ الْمُتَأَخِّرِينَ. And most of ulama in recent generations, recent centuries, they say it's Hujjah. So now, inshallah, from next week, what we need to do, from next session, is to see what arguments are brought to prove validity of Khabar Wahid and see whether these arguments are sufficient or not. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.